Back to school means food changes. Early breakfast, school lunches, after-school snacks, and let's not even talk about dinner. Ollie's here to help you cover all the wellness bases, from making sure your kids get their daily vitamins with Kids Multis or balancing your gut health with Ollie Probiotics. We're here to help you do wellness on your terms. Find us at a Walmart or Target near you or at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com.
Ollie!
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying time is here. That's right, we're talking about Alien Romulus on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from space. Did you know that in space no one can hear you scream? This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. And of course, we're going to unpack all the goriest and goopiest details of Alien Romulus in the hopes that a miner's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes that we can make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person that I trust to make sure that I get an upgrade when I need it. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How you doing today, Gina?
I thought you were going to say, you switched roles on me. I thought you were going to say that you trust me to provide a dad joke to lighten the mood of a situation.
6 one half dozen the other. I think
we're both, let's face it, we're both each other's Andys.
Yeah, pretty much. I have the weird jitters. Oh, I love Andy.
Andy's great. Andy is unimpeachable.
Unimpeachable. That being said, I do have something that we need to discuss with Andy, but I think before we get to that, we should, because this is a brand new movie in movie theaters, we should have a small non-spoiler review section for those who have not yet had the chance to run out and see the movie. First and foremost, Gina, would you recommend to our audience that they do so? Is this worth their time and attention?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, and I already mentioned this in my write-up on Substack, which should probably come out the same day as this episode. I am incapable of giving a fair review of an Alien movie.
Sure.
Because this whole franchise is so close to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there are any bad ones. I've said this numerous times already. I think Prometheus is a genuinely great movie. I think that Alien and Aliens are both their own masterpieces. Mm-hmm. And I think the rest are flawed, but still well-made, entertaining movies. Mm-hmm. And I would consider this a flawed, but well-made and entertaining movie.
Yes. I watched it. My son was very adamant that he wanted to see this with me. He knows, of course, how much I enjoy the Alien series. And so he was really goosed about the idea of seeing this in theaters with me. And he and my wife, Becky, delighted in watching me curl inside myself over the course of the movie. So I can tell you that it absolutely affected me. Like, this movie worked for me. Is it perfect? No. Is it Alien? No. Is it Aliens? No. That being said, a lot of care and a lot of effort was put into this motion picture, and I had a really fun time watching it. There's a lot of pros, a few cons, and I'll say that some of it was goofed around with in ways by its main producer that I was like, oh, yeah.
I mean, that always seems to be. We just talked about this with Disturbing Behavior, mm-hmm. where the bones of a good movie were there, but there was just so much fuckery from the studio that the end result was nothing like what they originally wanted for it.
So, I think Ridley wanted a lot of Ridley stuff in it. And I think it's balanced relatively well, considering what could have been. Like this could have been just all lore and no fright. This could have been just a sort of bloodless recounting of Aliens, the Alien franchise's previous highs. And I think it does interesting and compelling things within the framework of both giving people some fan service, but also mainly telling a story about two siblings. And that's really where I feel like this movie hits its highest highs. It's in stride when it's telling the story of these two quote unquote siblings and their dynamic and what it means to them and to other people to have a found family.
Right.
I would urge people, if you're going to see this, man, see it on the biggest damn movie screen you can find with the loudest sound system.
Yes.
We saw it in Dolby Atmos, and my chest was bruised afterwards from all the concussive noise it makes.
I just saw it in a regular theater, and it's still, but it's still a good show.
Yes. There's a lot of great stuff to it. I think as it goes, you'll find that even when it hits its last stride, it's still trying to do new stuff with what has come before it. It's not completely revolutionizing what an actual Alien movie is. I kind of hoped that it would be more Don't Breathe and less Alien Covenant.
Yeah.
And I think it split the difference.
Yeah, no, I expected high good things from Fade Alvarez for this, and I mostly got it.
Yeah. No, he knows how to photograph stuff. He also knows how to create very compelling sequences that make you uncomfortable and you're not entirely sure why. Minor spoiler. At one point, 3 of the crew squeeze into this very tiny section to get from their spaceship inside the space station. Nothing scary happened here. I was fucking on the edge of my seat.
Can I tell you, I actually thought of you during that scene. I'm like, oh, Patrick's not going to like this.
Ollie tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Are you all right?" That's nothing scary happens in this sequence. Yes, I think I'm with you. I don't know that I can be trusted to give the most fair and honest Alien recommendations. That being said, I've had and I've voiced them in the past, my problems with Prometheus and particularly in Covenant. That said, I think this is able to sort of gather elements of that and present them in a way that they are in league with what the Alien quadrilogy was before that. It didn't leave it behind. I would say Ridley Scott might be behind the scenes going, center this more, center this more, center this more. We thought we were free of Brandywine. Turns out we swapped out Brandywine for Ridley Scott. So I don't know what to tell you other than I think there's way more good stuff than there is things that I have minor quibbles with.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you.
I was hoping that this would unseat the first Omen in my number one horror movie of the year so far thing, not because I want to, but because I do really like Fede Alvarez. I think he is quite good at this. And I just think there are some elements that lower it a little bit. And I also think the surprise for me of what was able to be accomplished in the first Omen, right now it's sitting in the catbird seat, but still worth you going to a movie theater to see this.
Absolutely.
Okay. So now that we've gotten the non-spoiler review out of the way, those of you who want to wait to see the film, you can pause right here or download the show again or download it 5 times.
Or download another episode and listen to it again.
Yes.
If you want to wait.
Yeah.
But you know, if you don't want to listen to this, but you want to hear our voices.
Yes. And a reminder, you know, that it's not really so much what happens, but how it happens. And no matter what we talk about here, it's really not going to affect your enjoyment of the movie. But if you want to, if you feel better going unspoiled, we're not going to stop you. So we're heading into spoiler territory here. And I guess the first thing that I was very happy about is that Callie Spaney, who has been sort of bubbling underneath the surface here as the next big thing when it comes to young movie stars, she's not really turned into a Ripley replacement. What I really enjoyed was that this was much more of a two-hander between her character and her quote-unquote brother, Andy, played by David Johnson. And he is a synthetic. And I was truly enraptured with their relationship with one another and how they both fail one another and ultimately do what's best for one another. I found that a resounding and interesting variation on the Alien formula. It's almost as if they watched Alien Resurrection and said, I think we can do this better.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of the Alien movies are centered upon a character, usually the female lead, having to look out for someone, right, in a, you know, either a parent-child role or a sibling. Not so much, interestingly, not so much a romantic couple, because, you know, either in the case of Prometheus, they get killed off. Because Charlize Theron sets fire to them. I mean, there are worse ways to go than being, you know, than Charlize Theron setting you on fire. You know, you've got, you know, even in Alien, you know, she makes sure the cat's taken care of, and
right,
and, you know, there's, you know, some sort. I'm not the only person here.
I thought the performance on both their ends is fantastic. I think David Johnson was particularly revelatory. He's given a role here that allows him to do a lot, because he's one character before his upgrade and another character after, and then there's a middle ground he also gets to after that. He has a real journey throughout the motion picture that I thought was interesting and fantastically played by him.
Yeah, the issue with his character is it walks a very fine line between, like, the sort of I hate to reference back to, I would say, what the hell, Dreamcatcher, where you've got the magical learning impaired person. Because
we're flirting, and if you were to tick off boxes, and we're not the first person to bring this up, but he does actually tick all the boxes off of the magical Negro trope. Please forgive. That is the name of the trope.
Right. Like another reference point I would say would be Ernie Hudson's character in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Where it's not described too much what happens to him, but he has been damaged at some point. And what is Kaylee Spaney's character? Rain. Rain's father has fixed him at some point too, but he's only I guess he only has the capability now of being a sort of companion to Rain. That, you know, you would think like, oh, well, you know, he's this invincible android. He's going to, you know, protect her, but no, she's more protecting him.
Yeah.
because they are in an atmosphere where, people are more openly looking down on androids. Mm-hmm. Whereas in the earlier movies, it was more subtle. Like what just wanted to me, because somebody pointed out that, and I got to tell you, this is something despite many times I watched it, I never noticed before, is that in Alien, Parker is surprised to discover that Ash is an android.
Yeah,
and does not seem to be is not aware of this until after Ash attacks Ripley and the whole spaghetti and milk scene, everywhere scene. But earlier in the movie, when they're all having lunch together, he makes a point of asking Ash to get out of his seat and then wipes it off like ew, gross, an android. And somebody said, well, he's just doing that because Ash is new to the team and he's just sort of hazing him a little bit. Mm-hmm. But be that as it may, certainly, and this is a common trope in a lot of sci-fi movies, which humans are a little afraid of and kind of disgusted by the concept of an android. It's a little bit of a, they're taking our gerbs kind of thing. And
yes, there's a lot of taking our gerbs, but there's also the undercurrent here is that the Andy series is something that everyone in this mining colony is very familiar with. And obviously there's a lot of resentment considering that they have been given sort of middle management abilities. And so, half of this thief team has experience where a synthetic has made a call that has cost them a family member. And so there's that genuine resentment of, you still get to walk around and be what you are. And my parent, my sister, my loved one isn't, because they were, callously, or in my opinion, callously set aside for the greater good, because what they're programmed for, their prime directive is the good of the company, not to actually help people. Whereas Andy has been programmed by Rain's father before his passing to help Rain. It's just that at this point in their relationship, he is the one who has to be looked after all this time.
Right, because she leaves him alone. He gets harassed by people. Yeah. He's a little helpless and childlike. And like I said, both the plot and the actor have to walk a very fine line between, what they're trying to do and it verging over into offensive. And I think they manage it pretty well.
Well, I think it's interesting in the way that it on the surface hits those tropes, but also manages to avoid them in some degree. Like, he's not just, entering Rain's life. They have come up together. Andy has always been a part of Rain's life as far back as she can remember. So it's not he just wanders in and fills this role.
She thinks of him as a brother.
Yes. And she also callously is planning to sacrifice him, because the place that they're all planning to go once they steal this hibernation chamber is 9 years on the other side of the galaxy, and they don't allow synthetics. So he will be left behind. He will be jettisoned. He will be cut off because of fear that they will not be allowed in this end of the galaxy where Wayland-Yutani is not the corporate overlord, and they have decided we don't allow synthetics. So she's kind of like, oh, he'll, talk to Mother and allow us to get into this space station and we can get this stuff. And then, I kind of have to say goodbye to him in order to achieve my dream of getting the fuck off this planet and out of indentured servitude. But she's so guilty about it, she can't even bring herself to tell him.
Right.
And so there's a real dynamic here. There's a genuine relationship they have. And that changes when they actually make it onto the spaceship, and his programming is not high enough to actually allow him to open top secret doors, and they give him an upgrade from a different synthetic which appears to be lifeless on the ground.
Make this new school year an opportunity for your kids to learn important life skills with Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app for families where kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely, while parents keep an eye on kids' money habits. Greenlight also helps families get into their fall routine with a chores feature that lets parents assign chores and pay kids allowance when they check them off. Get your first month free at greenlight.com/pod. Greenlight.com/pod.
Fresh Step knows you'd do anything for your cat. From getting them food that's nicer than yours to letting them take a midday nap on your keyboard. So why settle for basic litter? Switch to Fresh Step. Fresh Step cat litter locks in liquid and odor on contact, giving you up to 15 days of odor control. Learn more at freshstep.com. Step it up to Fresh Step with superior odor control. Versus leading value clumping litter, Fresh Step is a registered trademark of the Clorox Pet Products Company. Febreze is used under license from the Procter & Gamble Company or its affiliates.
Glad drink, feeling fine, so fresh. Glad stretch. Glad drink with scents that take you back. Grandma's place always smells like pine. She said get out the chat room and clean mine.
The Glad Girl Group coming at you with a throwback jam. That was Glad Force Flex Drawstring Trash Bags featuring Pine Sol Original Scent. And that's better than all good. It's all Glad.
Back to school creeping up? Don't sweat it. Ollie Mood Supplements protect your inner chill. Bring home Hello Happy or Goodbye Stress today and do wellness on your terms. Find Ollie at a store near you or at OLLY.com.
Ollie!
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Turns out this is the next road bump, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah. We had, and it's something that it's such a big part that you can't just kind of gloss over it.
It's not like I thought for a second there, okay, we're going to have one scene with this Ash variant named Science Officer Rook. And I did not see this coming. When they put it in shadow, I'm like, oh, you're kidding me.
I recognize the profile right away. I'm like, that's an Ash model.
And then for a millisecond, I was kind of hoping for Adam, because I think that would have been better. I'll be honest.
Well, I mean,
you.
the thing that's so frustrating for me about this, and again, it didn't ruin the whole movie or whatever for me, but there was no reason they had to use Ian Holmes' face for this.
It's a cheap pop.
It's not supposed to be Ash. It is an entire. Now, I mean, are we to assume that this is a model and they're just ashes everywhere, just under a different name?
We're told that there was a whole Andy series. Right?
Okay, so but do they all look like Andy?
I think the universe is big enough that they can put them in science officer positions across Wayland-Yutani space and not have people the wiser is quite possible.
I don't think it was necessary for if it's not specifically Ash, then there's no reason to give it Ian Holmes' face. It's not, people are going to be like, hey, this takes place with 10 years after Alien, I think. Mm-hmm. This should be canon says this should be an Ash model. No one is going to say that.
No, because the whole point of Ash was that no one on the Nostromo knew he was a synthetic. Right. He was a plant.
Right.
And it is sort of suggested that for whatever reason, they have planted this Ash variant on this scientific group because this is their like mad scientist program or whatever, I guess.
Well, I also think it's funny that, clearly at some point, at least for a little while, during the Aliens period, they were like, just put a human in to do it.
Yeah.
The androids aren't working out for us.
Yes.
Because everybody knew Bishop was an android. Nobody except Ripley understandably was bothered by his presence.
Yeah.
But like, it wasn't even him that turned out to be the problem. It was Burke, the company drone.
And that was the swing there. So like, obviously they've been playing around with the whole synthetic thing since Aliens to try to do it in some way that is a different kind of role. And when they revealed him, I'm like, oh, okay. This man is not alive. That's problem number one, is that he is not alive. Now, if you smash half this face and it's played by an actual puppet, I'm more into it.
But it doesn't even have, my point is, it doesn't even have to be Ash.
I agree.
Or Ian Holm. It does not have to be. It could be, people are going to understand, it's another droid like Ash.
Yes. You just get another British actor to be in the Ian Holm role.
Right. God knows there's enough like middle-aged British actors out there that you could get for this part.
That they don't even have to show up for.
Like somebody suggested, I thought this would have been, great and nice zag on the guys. You get fucking Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yes. Oh my God. That would have been fantastic. There's so many people you could have chosen to do this role to me, this is like you put it into the script and it gets a big pop and everything. But the reality is Ian Holm is not on this planet.
No. It didn't sit right with me. Beyond feeling gimmicky, it's just like, this is the kind of thing that, we're trying to prevent happening with, and I'm sure that they got whatever rights they needed to get to use his face, which the idea that is still very unnerving to me, but I'm sure they did whatever they had to do legally to get it, because he's in it a lot. Like
that's the other thing. Yeah, if it had been a 3-minute scene where he says, "I wish you luck," you're gonna need it.
But no, then he sort of acts as like the android devil on Andy's shoulder.
Yes, and for that you actually do need a different character. You need to cast Rook as a different.
Well, and also
person.
you don't need it because Andy has the chip from Rook in his, so he should have the directive already. He shouldn't need Rook to guide him and to tell him, okay, this is what you're actually here to do.
He shouldn't, but because at a certain point it flips yet again, and Andy gains a different prime directive and has the freedom to make his own decisions, then you still need a Rook to be the devil on everyone's shoulder and go, you need to inject this goo into your body to survive. So there is that. Like, I do think Rook is a necessary enough character, but I really did bump on the Ian Holmes of it. And beyond the initial, oh.
Yeah, it was like,
because if it could any other, English actor of a certain age playing this, and there are dozens to choose from, it still would have been fucking cool. And I think it would have been a lot cooler if you didn't have to CGI a face onto it. You just have a puppet voiced by someone who voice you recognize.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be him.
Yes.
People will know, what it's referencing. People will say, "Oh, that's an android. He's probably not to be trusted."
Yes. He's a Wayland-Yutani robot who's a science officer. I don't need Ian Holm to know that guy is bad news.
Right. Exactly.
It's unnecessary. And if it's unnecessary, then why do it? Because I don't know. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth when there's so many other great tastes going on.
Yeah. I feel like any review I would give of it, I can't not mention it. There has to be like an asterisk there. But you know, at the end of the day, it turned what I'd hoped would be 100% great movie into a 75% great movie.
Yes, I agree with you. It knocks it down a peg, and I wish it didn't, because it's just at the end of the day unnecessary. Whereas what I did quite like about this, for the most part, is they cast different looking people to be different kinds of characters. And I'm not really wondering, wait, which one is Tyler? Which one is Navarro? It's very simple to know who all these people are based on their behaviors, how they are styled, their characters. They're individuals with their own wants and needs. And I'm not like, hey, I don't, but I could have used one or two more dead mates.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly small cast.
Yes.
And half of them are gone by halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
One gets chest bursted, one gets jizzed in the face.
Acid jizzed to death.
I was a little disappointed because when people were hyping up the 0G acid blood scene, which is great.
Yes.
And very tense, but I had envisioned someone getting a full blast of that right in the face, like having to kind of float around it. Mm-hmm. But that didn't actually happen. There was a little bit of a pulling the punches in that, but it's still a cool scene.
Yes. You know what? It's crazy because you have Alien, which is a 10 out of 10, and you have Aliens, which is a 10 out of 10. And the greatest knock on this movie is it's neither of those two movies. But outside of that, it's really good at what it does, but it's always going to be compared to them because its existence depends on their existence. So yeah, there are a lot of sequences in here that I really, really enjoyed for what they were. We got so many face huggers, which is one of those things where face huggers are like a one and done in this franchise. And here they're like, these bastards are everywhere.
Oh, and the creepiest part for me was when they have to walk through the room full of them.
Yes.
So they turn up they turn up the heat so it matches human body temperature. Mm-hmm. And they're just kind of moving a little bit. Mm-hmm. They're kind of twitching. And
they're all puppets.
Yeah.
They're all Muppets.
I cannot tell you that I love how much practical effects were. I love how the main Xenomorph, I love how what we're presumably saving as the best for last. I love how they've gone back to, big gangly dudes in suits.
Yes. They're just, you need a thin boy.
Yeah.
Slap them in there and let them work. Make those silver teeth drool.
You need one of those like automobile car lot, like you floaty men that kind of flop around.
Sure. And they got real long tails. And yes, I love that sequence. I love the room filled with water sequence as well. There's a lot of close calls that
there's a lot of really, really excellent at building tension.
Yes, he's great at building tension.
And the scene where they're going through the room with the kind of, I guess, dormant face huggers. They're just kind of patiently waiting until someone comes in that they could orally rape with them. Because there's really no other way you can put it. It sort of reminds me of you're walking through a room and there's like a bug on the floor. Mm-hmm. And you're walking, you're like, please God, don't let that thing run over my foot. I will fucking die. But like writ large. Yes. So you're kind of like carefully walking past it so it doesn't notice that you're there.
Yeah. And it's making the most out of elements of the xenomorph that we have not exploited yet. And I thought that was a really interesting way to go, because we've seen a lot of full-grown xenomorph action. Not that I dislike it. It's why I keep coming back. But that said, here they keep it practical, unlike Covenant, and not that they really show up in Prometheus writ large. But Covenant is all CGI, and it really lowers the threat level. And here, these people are acting with xenomorphs. They're acting with chest bursters. They're acting with face huggers. And it makes a mountain of difference when it comes to really creating a level of scare and level of, realness.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be something better about, actors being able to work with, actual tangible items to be afraid of and to fight back against, rather than the whole, green blob on a stick or whatever, stands in for monsters and fantastical creatures that are going to be CGI'd in later.
Yeah. And we get elements of the xenomorph that we have never seen and are absolutely brand new to the franchise. The idea that our Nostromo xenomorph could cocoon itself for deep space is brand fucking new.
Well, I mean, Ash did say you could not kill them.
Yes, which is fucking wild. They are practically immortal. You have to nuke them from orbit because it is the only way to make sure.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Wayland-Yutani's continued thousands of year quest to get even just one of these into their possession is extremely valid. Yes. They would make an excellent weapon of war.
Yes. But they're uncontrollable, and they just their brains are not big enough to conceive of the Pandora's box they keep trying to open.
It's almost like the Catholic Church thinking they can control the Antichrist.
It's almost as if it's the year of the industrial complex thinking they've got a handle on this thing they cannot fucking control. It is absolutely wild that this is coming up over and over and over again. Conversely, we get an element of the xenomorph that you can kind of figure had happened but had never seen on screen, which is, how does a chest burster get from its state to a xenomorph state? And it is plaster itself on the wall like a species and make a vagina.
Yeah, there's a lot of vajays, and there's
a lot of vajays, and Ollie has no fucking idea what that is. But underneath my breath, I'm going, I mean, I get it. It's a species. You made a species, I guess. But it's not like it doesn't make sense, because every other thing that a xenomorph makes for itself is also insanely sexual. Why wouldn't this be?
Right.
But it just goes to show you can't stick an electric probe inside of that space vagina and kill a xenomorph by shocking it to death. That is a no-go from what we learned.
Yeah.
Want to teach your kids financial literacy but not sure where to start? Greenlight can help. With Greenlight, parents can keep an eye on kids' spending and saving, while kids and teens use a card of their own to build money confidence. As a parent, you can send instant money transfers, set up chores, automate allowance, and more. It's a convenient way to run your household, customized to your family's needs, and the easy way to raise financially smart kids. Get started with Greenlight today and get your first month free at greenlight.com/pod. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Shopify is there to help you grow. Shopify helps you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, and sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. What I love about Shopify is how no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., and Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
It's time to have your high five moment with High Five Casino, the top social casino where the action and real prizes never stop. Fun spins and big wins are right at your fingertips with over 1,000 games, including High Five Casino exclusives. High Five Casino is always free to play with free coins given out every 4 hours. Sign up today and get free welcome coins you can spin for a chance at cash prizes. Visit highfivecasino.com.
High Five Casino.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply.
It will just spurt acid at you, and it will not end for you. That guy, Bjorn, really takes a licking and keeps on ticking. He takes up the Evil Dead.
Oh yeah,
Why ain't you dead yet?
Oh yeah, I'm feeling like this is going to be a continued thing for Alvarez. You know, picking the a character, kind of making him a character that is kind of a dweeb, or the audience just isn't going to like them, and and he's very much, for understandable reasons, does not like or want Andy's presence, even though Andy is the only one that can get them initially onto the ship,
and at any point in the movie off the fucking ship,
right? But like you kind of can't help liking Andy, because again, a lot of it has to do with he's very childlike. He, nothing he does is personal. He's just sort of puzzled as to, because he doesn't understand human emotion. Mm-hmm. So well, I didn't do that. Why are you mad at me? It's like, valid question, Andy.
His program is advanced enough that his directive is a replacement, as it were, for the empathy that a human being would have. And we see plenty of human beings in this who lack all empathy.
Right.
And so that relationship between Andy and Rain becomes this anchor, this thing you can hold on to throughout, and that you want resolved in a positive direction. You don't want them to be torn asunder by their own mistakes. You want them to find a resolution that makes sense. And this movie pulls off that miracle and is so much better for it, because there is that core relationship at the whole of it. I mean, okay. First one, obviously, rape. Second one, debatable motherhood, although that is an ongoing theme. And really what you want for Ripley is redemption, right? That she can come into the situation and not just survive herself, but bring people with her. That happens. That's ripped away from her, as it's ripped away from all of us. In Alien 3, that movie is about death. Resurrection is about French sexual nonsense.
Yeah, I was going to say, Resurrection is about weird fetishes. And it's still fun. It still works. It doesn't work as well, but there's a beating heart to it, okay? And then you get to Prometheus. It's about God. You get to Covenant. You get... I don't know what the fuck Covenant's about. If someone would like to explain that to me, I'm all fucking ears. Covenant is the one where, I'm just like, I don't know, I just like it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I just want, it's projecting that there's a lot of there. And then you're like, but I'm not sure there's a there. Or maybe I'm just not smart enough to figure out what is.
I think Covenant exists because Ridley thought, after Prometheus was done filming, oh shit, I should have had a scene where there were two David 8s.
Yeah.
And like I said, because I've said this before, I'll say it again. Prometheus and Covenant, if it's suffered anywhere, it was in that Ridley Scott was no longer interested in xenomorphs.
Right.
He was interested in this character, David 8, who is he is supposedly a an android who has a job doing, yet he knows how to manipulate people.
Yeah.
And
I called him Adam earlier. My apologies. It's not Adam, it's David. I don't know.
Yeah, it was David in Prometheus and Walter, I think, in Covenant.
Okay.
I mean, they're the same model. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's like, I think he's like, oh, I should have had to see where there were two of them. Let's make a whole other movie around that.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. And then the problem is that you put, especially with Covenant, you put Alien on the poster. So that's a problem right there. And then there's a whole excuse of everything that happens before that. And then I don't really remember how that movie ends. Don't spoil it for me, Gina. One of these days I'll watch it again.
Listen, I don't want to say I can't justify, because I don't think I should have to justify.
No, you shouldn't have to.
Liking a movie. I just like it. That's all.
Yeah.
It's nice and gory.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see James Franco catch on fire.
Well, I mean, right then and there, that's worth the price of admission alone.
I like Danny McBride.
Mm-hmm.
It's got more good going for it than bad.
Yeah, Catherine Waterston, solid actress.
One thing I found is interesting.
Sexual flutes. I forgot sexual flutes.
I've got the repeated motif of "Take Me Home, Country Roads."
Sure.
A song I guess is still existing 200 years from now. No, I guess it is like just 100 years from now, isn't it? Jesus Christ.
Well, I think Final Destination helped with that, is my guess.
Well, yeah. There's this interesting similarity between all of the heroines of the Alien movies. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking just, in these sort of, no nonsense, very capable, not at all helpless women, mm-hmm. but they all kind of look a little bit alike.
Yes.
To me, Catherine Waterston and Kaylee Spaney could be sisters.
Yes, but Kaylee Spaney is if you took Catherine Waterston and squished her down in
she's a little tiny woman. I am impressed to see that she managed to escape all this because she's like,
well, she can fit places. That's why you put children to work, is because their hands fit in tiny
she's
spaces. Like
an appetizer for a xenomorph. So
that's true.
But they all kind of like Numi Rapace and Sigourney Weaver kind of have a similar look.
Sure.
And then you turn around, Winona Ryder kind of going back to that sort of delicate,
porcelain doll,
bird girl thing of Kaylee Spaney and Numi Rapace. And it just, I don't think they were cast just because they gave the best audition. I think there's a sort of thread that runs through in that, all of them are similar in both, personalities and in appearance too.
Yes. But I think what is so interesting about Alien Romulus as its own animal is that at its core, it's not simply a Rain story. Whereas I think the Prometheus Covenant thing is much more a robot story.
Well, it's David and Elizabeth, I think, was Numi Rapace's character. Mm-hmm. Like, it was both of their stories, but they weren't tangled up with each other the way Rain and Andy are.
They don't have a relationship,
right? They have their own. They have their own agendas. Mm-hmm. Their own modus for survival. It just so happens that she needs him to help pilot the ship at the end of the movie. And then how does he repay her for rescuing, the pieces of him? He ends up implanting her with an alien xenomorph later in Covenant, as we discover.
And we never see her again. Way to go. Whereas again, like that chord, the dynamic at the center of this thing is Rain and Andy. And I think that elevates it in a different direction than we have been afforded before. And I really enjoyed these two performers, these two performances, and there's a lot going on there. And, Tyler is hunky. So
he's fine.
I'll give him that.
Died sooner than I thought he would.
And I do enjoy Isabella Merced. She's probably going to have a really interesting career here. She's got to feel better about this than she did Madam Web, where like almost everyone in Madam Web, she's stranded without any help whatsoever in that film. Here, she's given a really interesting role, a really interesting dynamic. She also kind of survives so much longer than you think she would, given the circumstances she ends up finding herself in. And I really enjoyed the race against time dynamic that's set up in this movie, where it's not really that, everything else is kind of like we set a bomb. This bomb is going to go off is a big part of the sort of alien dynamic. Like we got to cause something. We got to cause the death of something in order to get out of the situation. Whereas here is like, hey, we have a certain amount of hours to do this. Oops, turns out we now just have 70 minutes. And the ticking clock really works to motivate movement and decision making, and it all works in concert with one another.
Yeah.
Now, I really enjoyed the gravity thing. I enjoyed the gravity burps that the system does, where every 4 minutes is like, we got to turn this on for 5 seconds, and then it goes back off.
Yeah, I like that. I very much like that.
There's a lot of fun stuff.
It's a little bit of a funhouse element, which I think is very cool.
And I figured, and as I tried to remain as spoiler free as possible in this, that this would be borrowing much more from the Alien Isolation video game, where that is a lot of stealth movement. It's a lot of sneaking around. And there is sneaking around, but it isn't all sneaking around. In fact, we get pulse rifle action, which was something I did not expect at all in this. And it was like, hey, we haven't seen pulse rifles in a really long time.
No.
Yeah. And we get a dynamic. Then when the fucking black goo is reintroduced, Gina, part of my heart kind of sank. And we're back in black goo territory. There's so much cool stuff going on here.
Well, I
just don't need black goo.
They had to thread it back, because there was a little bit of everything in the entire series. They had to bring the black goo back.
Yeah, and I feel like part of this is getting Ridley Scott's sign off, because Covenant got, the sequel to Covenant got squashed after that bad box office run that it endured, that in order for Scott, who's now a participating production partner here, in order to get his sign off, some of his ideas had to pay off. And so somewhere in the back of his mind, he's like, we have to bring this full circle where a human being injects black goo, and we get a variation of the opening of Prometheus when an engineer injects himself with black goo. What happens when a human being, does that unsupervised? And Rook believes he has synthesized a version of this that will bring the best version of humanity forward. And what he has done is just made an engineer. It looks like an engineer, baby.
Oh yeah, like the big gangly boy.
It is referred to now that I've started to read other people's reviews of it as the offspring.
You gotta keep them separated.
That's exactly. That was what I was about to do. You beat me to the punch.
That turns out you gotta keep them separated.
You gotta keep them separated, otherwise you give birth to an offspring. But I believe I have a better term for it, and I'm going to launch it here on this show, and I hope that it takes off. It is the Goo-born. We have the newborn in Alien Resurrection. This is the Goo-born.
Yeah.
And the Goo-born, I hate to say it, looks a lot cooler than the newborn.
Oh, well,
as much
absolutely.
as I love that gangly fly boy, he really does come off as like an offshoot of Brundlefly, and this has a lot more going on.
This one is, I think, a lot creepier.
Yeah,
because it knows what it is.
Yes,
and it's like it's smiling in one scene, and
it's thrilled to be alive.
Yeah, it's like
Whee!
And he's got very long arms, very long legs.
Mm-hmm.
He does not appear to have any genitals, which, you know, that's probably going to be upsetting to him, you know, eventually. But
he has other protrusions in which he can make your life a nightmare, like his tongue.
Yeah.
Which is straight out of Blade 2. And apparently what was supposed to happen with him and Kay was that he kills her by breastfeeding.
Oh, and you know what? I would have loved that, but I understand why they felt they couldn't do that. Is this a Disney Fox decision, or is this an MPAA decision?
Yeah, where you're like, we're gonna let you get away with a lot of stuff, but that is too disturbing for a mainstream R-rated popcorn.
As it is, it does look like he's almost doing a Count Dracula thing on her, where like he's got his face buried in her neck. So I mean, right. I don't know if he's just like chewing on her or drinking her blood or something. I think he's feeding
on her. I think he, as part human, does need sustenance, whereas the Xenomorphs, we have always wondered over the course of us talking about the movies, do they actually need to feed, or are they beyond that? Are they just atoms growing atoms sort of situation?
Killing and reproduction machines.
Right. That's how they operate. They're not doing this because the individual life cycle is important. They are all variations of continuing the life cycle. Whereas the Goo-born is like, hey, this is awesome. I enjoy breathing oxygen. I can't wait to suck the life out of you. Wait a second, there's another person. I'm going to suck the life out of them. And that worked for me. I think it is interestingly designed. I would have loved to have had one version of that motherfucker who was real.
Yeah.
This is where you get Ridley Scott going, just CGI it, mate. Just CGI it, mate. And you're like, Ridley, I love you, but you're not always right, especially about this shit.
No,
we figured this out after Covenant. Real works better with Xenomorphs
because he's like an enormous newborn.
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course he's going to be gangly and unsteady on his feet. And it makes it all the more unnerving.
It's a much better execution of the newborn idea than the newborn in Alien Resurrection. I feel like yes, it is a reference. Yes, it is a second draft, but it also shows you a good rewrite can elevate an idea, and it fucking works for me. I enjoyed the variation of Rain sort of ejecting the Goo-born out of the spaceship and raking someone against the meteor rings of a planet. This is all fucking good to me. I enjoyed the hell out of it. It fucking worked.
Yeah. Like I said, I went in hoping for 100%. I got 75%, and I'm satisfied with that.
Are there? We've pretty much touched on most of the characters. Eileen Wu, I think, is a really fun presence in this movie as Navarro. I think, vibing off of an alien sort of riff. She's tough as nails. She's the pilot of the group.
She's a little Vasquez because she's got a thing going on with Bjorn.
Yes.
So everybody all the characters sort of have an element of the characters from other movies. Like you have a scene in which Tyler Tyler is showing Rain how to use the pulse rifle, which is obviously a callback to Hicks showing Ripley how to use the pulse rifle, without the scorching chemistry of Hicks and Ripley, which is interesting because Tyler and Rain were already supposed to have been a couple at one point. Whereas Ripley and Hicks met like yesterday. I would say maybe I'm not quite sure who Kay is supposed to be involved with, maybe Lambert, because she doesn't really do a whole lot.
It's a lot of screaming. She's trying to stay out of harm's way.
Right. So,
and there's also the element that she is pregnant, and the reason why she is doing this is to get the hell out of her indentured servitude and not have her child be raised on this Wayland-Yutani mining company, which harkens back to the sort of arc thing that's happening in Alien Covenant.
Well, and also I would say that all of these characters are basically supposed to be all, variations on Parker and Brett.
Yes.
Because they're all the working steps.
Yeah. And this movie makes the most of positing a point in the Wayland-Yutani, domination, where your existence, everything that surrounds you is the company store, and they can just fucking do what they want. The amount of hours you worked, guess what? They just increased. Sorry. You're going to work here for another 3 years.
I love how casually the woman's like, yeah, you'll be doing this another 4 or 5 years. And literally she thought that, she was, about to get her papers so she could, take off to, live in peace and not have to be in the servitude anymore.
Right. So it's, I really enjoyed a whole lot of it. And I think it is a more positive direction if they're going to start doing more films. I know we've got a TV series coming our way that we'll eventually have to talk about on the show.
I'm excited.
Yeah. It could be great. It could be very interesting. I don't know what it's going to be. And I don't know. Like this, I don't want to know.
They're keeping things very close to the vest as to exactly what it's going to be about. Like if it's going to be more, if it's going to be mostly Wayland-Yutani, corporate raidering or whatever, nah. But I think Succession in space or something. But because again, as numerous people have pointed out, it is taking place before anything else in the series, even Prometheus.
Yes.
So they're going to have to explain somehow, if they actually do bring Xenomorphs into it, which it'll be stupid not to at some point, because otherwise, what's the point? If you
call it Alien,
you have to have an alien.
You're going to have to do that,
right? But they would have to explain, around the fact that the appearance of the Xenomorph in Prometheus was supposedly the first time anybody had ever encountered one.
Right. But I think I think there is an element to this they don't want to discuss because they don't want it to get in the way of Alien Romulus. Alien Romulus deserves its own runway, its own takeoff, and its own landing before you start hyping people about something else that's in a different line of continuity than this. And just let that be what it is. That's very, very smart. That's always like the Marvel problem. Whereas at one point it was like, hey, it's 2 movies a year and there's plenty of runway and landing strip for a different trailer to come out, in anticipation of a new movie and allow people to fill in the gaps with their own hype. And they kind of got in the way of that. And I think maybe people are learning how to manage a franchise a little bit better as a result of that. I'd like to think.
Yeah.
So there's that to look forward to in 2025. We've already kind of committed internally that whenever Welcome to Derry happens, we're going to talk about that.
Yes.
So keep that in mind, everyone. We're trying to give you as much kill by kill action as we possibly can. Will we commit to whatever this Alien show is? I think it really depends on when it actually happens in comparison to everything else we're doing, but we're interested. There's a lot going on in this movie that I truly enjoyed. I think it is frightening in parts. I think it is ridiculous in parts. There's an element to that elevator shaft sequence that is pretty massive and blockbustery in a way that you don't often see in an Alien movie. And I enjoyed that. It was so many different movies wrapped up into one. And it kept finding ways to interest and surprise me. And yeah, the major issue I have is with Rook, man. That's kind of a fucking bummer.
Yeah, it would have been a 5-star movie for me if they had cast anybody else. If they had cast an actual living actor to play this character. Yeah. To me, it would not have changed any. It would not have changed anything. I would get that it's supposed to be evocative of Ash.
Yeah.
And Ash's cold-bloodedness and how, Ash is there for one thing and one thing only, and how the androids cannot be trusted, which as a further, strain to the relationship between Rain and Andy. They didn't need his face for that. Yeah.
I get it for the cheap pop, but then you're left with nothing but bad feelings about it. Whereas if you just brought in a heavy British hitter, you would have just gone, oh, I can't believe that they got that person for that voice role. That was so much fun. Because there's, again, if it had been a puppet, I would have been halfway more into it. But CGI in his face really left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yes.
Is it time to play Choose Your Own Deathventure, where we decide of the many deaths in this motion picture, if we were forced to die in one of those ways, which one would it be and why?
I mean, I don't like any of them. I don't like any of them. They all seem pretty bad.
Yeah, they do seem pretty bad. That's what makes the game difficult. So we're going to go with, primary on-screen deaths here. We're not going to deal with Rain's mom and dad or, killed in a mining accident or whatever. We're talking main screen deaths of the cast. So you can be like Navarro and get chest bursted and by a xenomorph. You can be Bjorn, who's impaled in the eye with a xenomorph tail and then get your body melted by acidic blood. You can go out like Tyler, who's bitten in the head by a xenomorph and subsequently just ripped apart by a bunch of his friends. You can be destroyed when the Renaissance station collides with the Jackson asteroid belt like Rook. You can be feasted upon by the offspring, or the Goo-born, as I like to call them, like Kay is. And then Andy is semi-dispatched, but Rain believes that she can repair him. So I don't think I'm going to call that one because his fate is unanswered here. And then you can be just, again, dropped into an asteroid belt like the Goo-born. What say you?
Man, none of these sound good. None of these are quick.
No.
God, like I said, I would think Kay's would probably be the least bad, but she has to deal with that giving birth beforehand.
She gives birth to a sack of acid, which I can't imagine being great.
No. I guess I'm gonna have to take whatever he was, bitten or stabbed in the back of the head by that's like Tyler, because by the time he was getting chewed up, he was probably already gone.
Yeah, he's not around. That's the only one I think I can really handle here, because there's no way I'm going to be acid rained to death.
Yeah, if you still find the Kane's death, the original chest bursting scene in Alien, among the most horrifying scenes in horror. You get a lot more of that in Navarro's death. It takes a lot longer for her to be chest bursted.
And I guess I have to quit it with the whole how long does it take a fucking alien to give birth, right? I have to get rid of this idea that it takes as long as it does in the original Alien, because that's like a full fucking day. And none of these movies wait that long. They just get shoved with an alien, and between 12 minutes and 12 hours later, it happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, whatever we want it to be for the sake of moving the plot along.
Yeah.
I just think
we don't come to this for reality. We come to it for emotion.
Yeah. I mean, you've got the guy in Resurrection who's just running around with it for hours.
Right. Like that guy gets a face planted and he's like, I don't know, I'm going to go on an adventure for so fucking long.
And Navarro is probably less than an hour.
Yes. It's practically instantaneous. But I guess what you can say about this particular group of xenomorphs is that they have been fucked with by Rook, right? He has been creating generation after generation after generation of them. And so it's very possible that he's created a fast moving xenomorph whose life cycle is accelerated past anything we might have seen in previous movies.
I agree.
So that's how I'm going to explain away that nerdiness. But there are tons of nerdiness that I can't explain away, like our Patreon feed, where we have lots of extra shows and fun conversations for you to be a part of. We'd love for you to join. There's various levels, but you get all sorts of extras as a result of it. And of course, Josh Hollis does all of our artwork. And go to Revenge Body Memphis at revengebodymemphis@bandcamp.com for this remix and all our other themes. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about movies and television at my newsletter, GinaWatchesThings.substack.com. And I am on most social medias, mostly yelling about politics recently under Gina Does Things.
Do it today, people. Check it out. We're on your socials everywhere, but Twitter, fuck that joint. And that'll just about do it. Don't worry, folks, because the body count will continue. For myself and for Gina, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
High Five Casino lets you play your favorite slot and live table games like blackjack with the chance to redeem for real cash prizes. High Five Casino has a giant selection of over 1,200 games, including hundreds of exclusive games only found on High Five Casino. It's always free to play, and free coins are given out every 4 hours. Ready to have your own high five moment? Visit highfivecasino.com. That's casino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply.